All right. Thank you for joining us again for another episode of the Collecting the Precious podcast. Jim, aka Mad Eye Gamgee, and myself, Josh, aka LSR, are here again, and we have a special guest and friend, Brian. Brian is a collector friend of mine. We've gotten to know each other a little bit over the last few years. Brian is also a photographer, and if you follow, obviously, what we do here at Torn and the photos that we share, a lot of the times the collectibles from myself, Brian does the same, and his photos are phenomenal. They're always very, very, very good. So um, I'm always thinking of like how I can try and not suck compared to like some of the stuff like that Brian puts out there. So Brian, thank you
Oh,
for
no.
taking the time to out of your busy weekend to join us. So I guess to start off with, just tell us a little bit about yourself.
Hey, well, it's nice to meet you, Josh and Jim. Yeah, we've talking over the years, but I think this is the first time we've had this interaction, so I'm super excited. Um, and most of all, thanks for having me on. I really enjoy the show. There's multiple times when I call this my little studio. It doesn't always look like this when I'm trying to shoot something. I have lights up and I'd have your podcast in the background and either Lord of the Rings or something else. So yeah, a little about me. I'm kind of a Lord of the Rings fan, kind of. Huge. I've always
The
loved the
investment
movie.
in
Got
their
it.
background would say you're a big fan.
I got introduced to Tolkien's work through Peter Jackson, so I'll always value him. Um, I My background is I'm in the world of marketing, world of business. But photography is something I like to do in the side, is something I've always been passionate about. And Lord of the Rings has always been a passion of mine since middle school, since I've seen it. And then over time, um, I've gotten to love the movies, and then I wanted more. So that appetite, brought me to the books. Super highly cautious, needed to prepare myself because I know that books and movie adaptations are not the best. So that's why I've like refrained from even like reading Harry Potter until today. I like Harry Potter. It's just that gap is never there once you read the material. But it took years to prep mentally, and the great part is I got to experience Tolkien twice in two different mediums and in two different ways, and I still love them both. Other than that, I'm still um, a 30-plus-year-old guy, still enjoying Tolkien like he was at least 14 years old in both the movies, through my lens, and on film, and especially on books, because we're having some new publications coming out. So super excited for that. So just overall, I'm super excited with what's going on right now. There's so many releases, both on film and on books. There's new materials coming out, like Fall of Numenor, and all the things that are going to be coming out within the Tolkien world. So yeah, other than that, that's me, just a huge fan, normal guy that just happens to really, 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 really like Tolkien.
Very good.
So
What was, if you do you remember what was your first piece that you ordered? Do you remember what that was?
I remember like it was yesterday. Actually, it was from Lisa from Weta at the Weta workshop at Comic Con. So the story is that um I moved to Seattle like about 12 years ago, and my girlfriend at that time, now my wife, bought me Emerald CityCon Comic Con tickets. So she surprised her as a birthday gift. Um, when I went there, I saw these statues for the first time when I went to Paris on a business trip vacation. I never knew they existed. They were in the top shelf of some comic book store, and I was like, "That's Lord of the Rings. Like, where do I find that?" Because if you walk into mostly any comic con shops or comic book stores, you don't see these statues. A lot of people never knew existed, when especially on my Instagram, it's like, hey, where do I find this? And I see that they're based in the US. They don't know of these things. So um my wife got me Comic Con tickets. When I walked to the floor show, I was surprised to see the Weta booth. And I saw alerts, and I was like, oh my God, $300. And so that sticker shock, now $300 is based on inflation seems a pretty good deal. It's crazy. But yeah, Lurth was my very first statue. I'll never forget that. It's like your first car. You know, it's unboxed. I still remember the smell of the box, that thrill. It's even better in person. You've seen all the photos, but you're just like, wow, this thing needs to be appreciated in person. So yeah, Lurth was my first statue. So
Nice. Yeah, that first
the
statue.
1/6 scale.
It's yeah with the from Amon Hen with Boromir.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good place to start. One, that's a great statue. But yeah, that first statue you get, there is something special. I mean, I don't even actually own the first statue that I ever got anymore. He's yeah, I my first statue, and I think I've said this before, but was the Strider statue from Sideshow Weta.
Okay.
Oh, nice. Oh, that's a good statue too. Yeah.
I got it ironically from a place called the Tolkien Shop in the Netherlands.
Yeah.
And
Oh, wow.
I bought it while I was in the tech lab in the library on the college that I went to. I was messing around and bought it while I was waiting for my next class to start. That was the first piece that I bought, and actually, it was the first piece that I got in hand. The first piece I purchased was the LOTR statue from. I bought it actually through Sideshow. Well, they were Sideshow collectibles then. I guess obviously they're just Sideshow now. But
Yeah.
What was your first piece, Jim? Do you remember?
I bet you could probably even
Was it Sam and Bill?
Sam and Bill. Yeah,
Oh, that's a great piece.
it was. Yeah, Brian, for your
Great piece.
I have right over there a whole shelf dedicated to Sam, who's my guy. So whenever anything with Sam comes out, I have to get it, which means I've pre-ordered the latest Masters collection out of Weta because Sam's there at the top of the Dead Marshes. So gotta have him. So.
Oh yeah, that's a great piece.
Yeah.
I got super lucky with the Sam and Bill piece I found on the secondary market.
Yeah.
Yeah, Brian has a knack for finding things out there in the world that people have forgotten about. Apparently, somehow, some way.
Where do you tend to look for those kinds of things, Brian? Is it on eBay or?
Man, like, well, the thing is, do you remember Black Friday Weta? That was one. You know, I got Smog for like $250.
Yeah.
I got the Balrog for $200. Do you remember those deals? They were just like I remember Rivendell was like $100. Like,
yeah.
I still remember that. So one is the great Weta purge, the Black Friday, and second is just like secondary markets, like local offer ups. I don't think they don't have that in Europe, but I'm sure there's a lot of apps. Facebook Marketplace, eBay. I found several things on eBay because how eBay works, right? It curates your list based on your propensity to convert or to purchase.
Right.
So if you add in like a filter of like sort by price or when it was shown, some of these guys, you know, they're just listing it and they're hoping to get the best, but it's been listed for a while and it doesn't hurt to shoot over an offer. And I was surprised to get, like, for example, the Sauron helm for $150 on eBay. I mean, you don't get that anywhere else. I just went out over and asked, like, hey, it's been listed for a while. I'm great buyer, rated very well. I think that's a big thing too, is that you're rated well in the community. I got those deals on Sam and Bill. I got that for $70.
Holy cow! Wow.
Yeah. You know, there's a lot of these people like, hey, I'm moving. I just want to let stuff go.
Mm-hmm.
I just so happen to be at the right place in the right time. I guess like diligence pays off too. Yeah, like my books. I'm a huge book fan too, especially when reading. I really transitioned my collection to the books because I really like them a lot. So for example, like 30 years ago, 30 years ago, there was a printed Easton Press books. There was a full collection with the Atlas that she sold to me for like $170 because she just wanted to let it go. But when I smelled it, it was like, I could tell it was unread, but it was a house that smoked. So it smelled like cigarettes.
Uh-oh.
So I did this whole like put it in Ziploc bags, put some fabric softener, some cure them, took care of them. They're pristine now.
Wow.
So just deals like that, yeah, I'm super lucky, just diligence and just looking at the secondary market. And as your network grows and people know that you like Lord of the Rings, sometimes I would get from friends like, hey, my friend's selling their book collection, or my friend is letting go of this. Are you interested? So
So
Well,
do
another thing
you tend to
too.
buy single pieces or do you buy collections?
oh no, I tend to buy single pieces. If I buy collections, man, that's like, you guys know, that's additional spaces for boxes. And for me, I've transitioned over to, I want to have a theme for my collection. At first I wanted to collect anything and everything, but I saw that it was
You can't do
quite getting cluttered. So I wanted to have my collection to have like sort of a theme. So I'm very selective, even if I'm so tempted to pick like an attractive haul up. Yeah, it's just causes problems and additional money that I would say that could go into something else, even if it's a few dollars. So
Well, I think that that's important to have, and and we've talked, Jim and I have talked about it before in previous episodes, having a theme to a collection, having an idea what you want. It keeps you from, buying stuff that, yeah,
oh
you
yeah.
like it because to be honest with you, I think the thing that and we've talked again, I think we've kind of talked about this before, but get your thoughts on it. I think it's one of those things when you buy something that doesn't either A doesn't fit a theme or you just kind of buy everything. Ultimately, those are some of the first pieces when you do sell things off because we've all sold pieces off in collections. I think at one point or
Yeah,
another.
yeah.
I think those are the first pieces that almost always go. And I think if you sit and analyze how you collect, I think you sit back and go, yeah, that was a piece I probably shouldn't have bought in the first place because I wasn't,
Mhm.
it didn't fit a theme or it wasn't a piece that maybe you loved. But there's a difference between loving a piece and I think really loving a piece. There is a difference between those two, and I think having
Yeah.
a theme helps with that.
you're about to Marie Kondo your collection. What truly gives you joy in your
Right.
collection?
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think
Yeah.
and especially with the price and the size of these things now. I mean, and
Oh yeah.
not to knock anybody out, any company out there, anything. They're all expensive items. It is just what it is. But they're all larger now. I mean, you compare. I mean, I don't know, Brian. I don't know if you have anything from the original sideshow Wetaline besides Sam and Bill, where you've been able to put it up against like the newer stuff. But they used to say that was 1/6. Well, the stuff that we're getting now supposedly is 1/6, and it's bigger. It is bigger. So it's a true 1/6
Hmm.
now, maybe is the case,
Mm.
but those are big pieces. Then you start getting into forget like Treebeard that we can see in Brian's picture. It's I mean, like, well, Aelmir in Jim's picture, that's a big piece. He takes up space. If you do something like the Prime One, Balrog and Gandalf, that thing is massive. I mean, it's a
Yeah,
not,
it's huge.
but it's huge. The new Sauron from Weta is a massive piece. These things take up space. So
Yeah.
having a theme, especially Brian, I think obviously you're probably a relatively newer collector compared to say, like, well, I'll be honest with you, someone like myself who's been collecting since
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
20 years. I think it's really important, for newer collectors like yourself to do what you're doing and being ahead of the game and saying, I'm going to have a theme. I'm going to have an idea of what I want. And I've
Oh, just to let you know, I didn't know that from the onset. So it's like this. It's those that I wanna. You go to college and you want to go into this major, but then on the way there you find out like, oh, I don't want to do that.
yeah,
Like
I got you.
I wanted to go in and seeing your collection, like you're honestly, Josh, like one of the reasons why I have an interest for collecting. There are like some really benchmark people like I've seen online. Your YouTube channel has like I've watched that so many times because I wanted to get something. So for me, I wanted to get anything and everything. But then when I saw like the financial cost, even if it's one piece, man, that $100 adds up. That 150 adds up. That $70 adds up, and then you add in the $300, 375, and then only in the recent years we started getting to four digits.
Yep.
Um,
Yep.
and I just took a lot of like, oh man, like this may not be like sustainable to collect this way. And plus, if I had a girlfriend at that time, and now my wife, yeah, she'd kill me with all those boxes. She's like, "Where are you gonna put all these?" Yeah, I think that's one thing we don't talk about too.
Oh,
Like
the
those,
boxes are, I mean, the
yeah,
boxes are huge. And
yeah.
if you, especially when we start getting into pieces, I mean, you could see just an example just of the art box of Treebeard back there. That's a big art box.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah.
Uh, I don't do it all the time, but every once in a while I'll take pictures of the art boxes and put them in a review and stuff. And it's a, you know, those things, they're huge. And then, and the bigger the piece, the bigger the box. You do some of these
Oh
pieces
yeah.
in 2 or 3 boxes, like the Prime One Balrog came in 2 boxes. I
Mhm.
know, you know, there's been several pieces from Wizards that have come in very, you know, like the Master Collection pieces. They come in those big boxes, or there are multiple boxes, or there are multiple levels to the styrofoam, and it just increases box size, and it's crazy. Jim,
Yeah.
Jim,
And with
Jim has some big pieces, obviously, with some of the stuff in the back. But where do you put yours? Where are your boxes in an attic, Jim, or?
I have an attic, but sometimes the boxes are so big they don't fit through the trap door.
oh yeah.
Or that those are the ones that go to the basement. So yeah.
Well, and Jim's been collecting even longer than the both of us, because you had stuff going back to like the Bakshi films and stuff like that. You have some of those animated pieces. So, you know,
Oh wow.
for you, I mean, you've seen stuff go from, you know, like some of those little action figures from the Bakshi stuff that are like, you know,
Yeah.
this big to, I mean,
Yeah.
now you have master collection pieces, and, you know, next year sometime you'll have, you know, you know, the piece with Sam and Frodo and Gollum and stuff. You'll have the, you know, the Dead Marshes. That's the
I do it.
where we've come from. So it's nuts.
Jim, I need a tour of your collection, man. That sounds amazing.
I know. I probably ought to take my camera off here and kind of do the little there.
Oh, sick.
Shelves, and then over there, and do a little spin and do a black arrow thing. I have one
Oh, that's amazing.
Master and Commander ship. That map up there is actually a commissioned piece from an artist I met at Dragon Con. That's fantastic. He does pyrography, so it's all on. It's all burned into a buckskin, and I think there's like 4 or 5 of them in the world. One of which is Richard Taylor's, and another is well, he's spread them out. But yeah, it's fun. It's fun.
Yeah. The cool thing I noticed that as I get deeper into collecting, sometimes there are like a lot of backstories to like some of my statues. Like, oh, this is from a good friend of mine, or I connected with this artist, and hence I was able to get an exclusive piece or whatnot. So that's the really good thing about collecting, is like also the community too, which is
Yeah.
great.
Yeah.
Um,
So what's your Arkenstone piece?
ooh, my Arkenstone piece. Ah,
I'm actually curious about this, because I don't think I've ever seen you say like what your like favorite piece is. Because I mean, we all have one. We can all say, oh, we love all our stuff, but there's one piece that everybody loves more.
It's like, if your house is on fire, this is the piece I'm saving.
yeah. Okay. Actually, I thought about this a few times. If I had a situation where I need to sell everything, what would be the last statue like I would hold on to?
Yeah.
Like what would be like, okay, I'm gonna enjoy you until I see you. Okay. Are you talking about aesthetic wise as a statue collector, or like emotional wise where
Just your heart, man.
oh man, the Salmon Bill one. Because there's a really good story behind it, you know, because met Sean Austin. That was a great, but in regards to like really appreciating art and the sculpt and everything that I love about a statue, the first thing that comes to mind is the Prime One Sauron. I really enjoy that statue. But other than that, all my babies are like right there. They're like one B, because I've trimmed it down to my my collection where it's like these are the have to haves, and the things that I'm okay to be without with. sadly I've parted, and that's a big takeaway from the books that I've gotten, is like learning to let go.
Yeah.
Learning to let go of things where I didn't want to hoard and collect, and so I can get other things, and I thought I was going to be sad, and when I let those go, I was super happy because I knew that they went to a nice house that appreciated them even probably more than I would, because my collection's going in a different way. And so yeah, but other than that, to your answer, it would be I would hold on to the salmon one, and then I try to pull Sauron if I can. But
Good luck with that, because that piece is huge.
yeah, I'll probably at least get the helmet and make a little helm out of it.
Post-mortem or something. This man died trying to pull Sauron out of his house.
Don't want to be on the CNN and Fox.
To play off of that question though. Okay, so let's say Sam and Bill is that's your Arkansas. That's but obviously you're still adding pieces here and there to your collection. But what does the piece, check marks have to be knocked off the list for a piece to enter your collection at this point?
For me, it's just
a focus question too, because you're talking about focusing your collection.
Yeah, for me, it's just anything that really gets me excited. Like there is nice to have and must to have. Like if I were to, let's say, sleep on it, if I were to wake up the next day, I still want it, and it has to work also financially. I want to make sure I have funds earmarked for it. If I really I'm really looking at the Prime 1 Legolas Legendary Edition.
Mm-hmm.
Does that fit into my collection? No. There's some bust I want to get, but I have to be mindful of space. Like, where can I place it? Will it be at a spot that I would enjoy? Do I have to move some things? And so, like, sometimes I would have like some agreements with myself. It's like, okay, if I'm going to add one more piece to my shelf, I have to let something go, because I don't want to keep collecting. I want to have a space dedicated for them to be displayed, because I think that's a key thing too, is you're going to see them every day. And a lot of work goes into these pieces, and I think showing them and lighting them up rightly, it's really the other half of the story that makes you really appreciate them. So for me, it's like those are the boxes I have to tick off. So for example, like I do have a space for a great example is Smog. I really love Smog the Terrible. I really love that new statue, the statue with his wings coming out. The original Smog piece, that's great, but I didn't really like the paint too much. But the sculpt was legendary. I really like it, but I really like the new Smog with his wings open. That's how I've always wanted to see him. When I saw Daniel in Comic-Con, that's one thing I suggested. Like, hey Daniel, a suggestion. You should do like a Smog with his wings open, and that's always something I wanted to see. When I saw that, I'm like, okay, I think this is a time for me to let go of my old Smog and get the new one.
Did you have the one where he was setting down on the gold and stuff? The original.
Yeah, that was the one. I really like that piece, and so like a space cleared up right now because as the time goes by and it gets closer, I notice like there's more Smogs that come in the market. A lot of Smogs don't come in the market too often, but since I have a good friend of mine that I always sell to locally, I reached out to him if he wanted, and he was more than happy to. So it was a win-win situation. It was sad to see him go. It took a ton of pictures, some videos, but onto bigger and newer things. Because if I really want it, right? If I really want those back, I can go back and buy him back. Because it's never like, oh, I'm gonna lose him forever. That's never the case.
Right.
So
well, we've all done that too before. We've let a piece go that we're kind of like, I shouldn't have let that go, and then gone back.
Yeah.
I did that with the original Balrogs.
Yeah. Oh, the original ones. Oh yeah.
You're a Balrog dude, man. You love
I mean, we've joked about it before, and obviously in previous episodes. But yes, I do. I love the Balrog. That is my favorite creature. So I'm always game for when a new one comes out. But to Brian's point, in some ways, like the classic one that Weta did, I didn't get that one, and it wasn't that I didn't like it. I have the original. I have the big one that Weta did. I have the Prime One piece, and then I have like the Gentle Giant bust and stuff like that. And I was like, it just when I want a Balrog piece, I need it to be at least, especially the fact now that I have, I know the original's not massive, but it's still a decent sized piece.
Oh yeah,
The,
it's still great.
the new one is huge, and then obviously and eventually I'll get around to actually taking pictures and do a review of it. But that Prime One is, I mean, it's just huge, and
Oh
it
yeah.
takes up a lot of space. Not just the base, the Balrog itself takes up space,
No.
and so I kind of at this point where with the Balrog, I need it to be something that really wows me, or something that is pretty substantial in size, that I think, okay, it really is it's a piece that I really want to add to my collection. So it's definitely, like Brian said, it's one of those, it's got to check off boxes. It's got to, like the new Smaug, it's got to be something that does something for me in a different level. But yes, I'm a Balrog junkie.
Yeah, and I do an extra step where, like, at the moment of purchase, I'll be like, okay, let me hold off, and I'll sleep it over the day or two, and if I still want it, then I'll go get it. Especially if it's a significant purchase where it would require me to let something go, going through the whole purchase, and then because I have to pre-order it, waiting for that, is it going to be all worth it? The Dead Marshes was a close one, but I liked it that I took a few days. I'm like, it's okay if I don't have that piece. So yeah, the one that I almost that I thought I had more time was the tribute. Well, sorry, what was that, Josh?
You hurt Jim deep in his soul with that one.
No, that's all right.
Oh, sorry.
No,
I got my own little Sam collection here, so I'm good with that.
Yeah,
but that's a great piece for me to almost consider that. That shows it's for me. It's a really good pot. So.
no, but it's consistent with what you were saying, because it's the pieces that stir you. And so, as Josh knows, for me, the Sam pieces connect with the things that my wife and I cosplay. It connects with all the way back to reading the stories in the in the 70s, when it was clear to me that the character that develops the most and the hero of the story for me is Sam, and all of his contributions. So it's a personal wiring thing.
Oh yeah.
It's not just a matter of, will this look epic on my shelf? It's, do I care about this piece? And that's
that's very true. Sometimes, like, a lot of I would, on my Instagram account, a lot of my followers would ask, hey, how do I start collecting? What is your advice? I wanted to get this, and this. And then in the end, I would always say, you're going to be looking at these collections. Like, I want to have everything what you have. Well, I have this because I enjoy this. Like, you may want something else. You see it now because maybe it's the only statues you're aware of. But if you're aware of, like, all these other things, like, yeah, because, like, when we collect, sometimes you want to collect everything. But if we collect the things that we love every day, man, that's just even more, because, like, the things that we're passionate about, maybe it's pieces that is not even popular in the statue community. There's some pieces that are very polarizing. One of them I remember was the onset was like Thranduil on Elk. That was a quite polarizing piece at first, but then over time, there are people who are just, I don't care, I really like it, it's on my display. So
yeah.
Well, but I think no, go ahead, Jim.
I was going to say, Brian, is there a piece, whether or not it exists yet, that you that you would leap onto that? So I'll give you an example, because Josh, this will connect, because Josh put me onto this piece. Hang on. I'm a book kind of guy.
Oh yeah.
And so the Red Book of Westmarch, this prop replica thing. And
I think I'm gonna get. Where is that from?
From Indy, yeah.
That's really nice. Oh
yeah. So and this one, it's written in. I mean, it's the whole thing. So
man, that is amazing.
So as an addendum to a book collection, and Tolkien's conceit that this was all recorded from the originals in the Red Book of Westmarch, It's like this would be an ultimate. So this is one of the ones I'm carrying out. I hope if the house burns down.
Well, and I think the great thing
yeah.
about that book there is one, yes, it might actually be the one, it's despite loving the Balrog and all that it might be the one piece, yeah, that I would have to seriously be like, I love you guys,
Yeah.
but I think for you, Brian, and I where I look at a piece like that for like a collection like yours, is the fact you not only collect statues, but obviously you like the books very much, and you collect the different versions of the books, and you have those, and different formats, and different the hardbacks. You have some softbacks. You have old first edition type stuff. I know. I mean,
Yeah.
you have a bunch of those. That to me is a piece that fits in your collection because it not only is something you collect, obviously, but
Yeah.
it fits within touching upon the films, but also your love for the books. So
Oh
yeah,
yeah.
I mean,
Yeah. So to my original question, then I knew I wanted that piece. I didn't know if it existed even. And so over time, and especially through Josh's help, discovered where to acquire it. And it was a big purchase, substantial.
Yeah.
Not as big as some of the huge Weta statues, but it was not a minor investment. But it was absolutely at the core of my heart as a collector. Um, so and that goes back to the question of, is there something out there that that you want? That
If there is, well, I think it hasn't made yet too. Is that the Morgoth versus Fingolfin? If there was someone who produced, if there was a studio that produced a 1/4 scale that was high quality, take my money. Pre-ordering right now, first of the line.
That dude, wow, that's a big piece.
Any Morgoth piece in, well, if I do like their interpretation of who the character is.
Yeah.
There are some amazing artists online that has drawn them extremely well. But if I can get just is it from John Howie or Alan Lee, where they're dueling, if they can turn that into a statue, a really well done one, that would be the Grail. I would replace Treebeard. I would replace Treebeard would have to go somewhere else. I'm sorry, Treebeard, but that one would hold dear to me. I love anything and everything first age. It's some second age, but yeah, that would be.
you're a big Silmarillion guy, and so that.
Oh, I didn't know I was gonna be one. Like when I started reading the Silmarillion, I'm like, what the heck is a Silmarillion? Like, where's the rings? This is my expectation to what I was reading. So that's why, like I say, like I discovered Tolkien twice. I discovered this different world that I never knew existed. I was like, what happened to the rings? I thought like Lord of the Rings, like I thought the rings were like a thing since the very beginning, having to find out who Eru is. I'm like, oh, there's a god in here. Oh, that's who they're referring to. Oh, this is what the movie was talking about. So that's why I really love Tolkien's world. But yeah, that Fingolfin piece and Morgoth, I'm waiting for that. So if you guys know, do tag me if you ever see that online.
Fair enough.
Well,
Yeah.
okay, so now I touch upon the other part of your collecting with the books. Why invest? Obviously, because there's obviously you're already investing in the statues, right? So why also make a kind of a co-investment in collecting the books? Because not only is that a different style of collecting, but it can be really expensive, especially because you're not just going and buying like the new stuff that comes out at at Borders or Barnes and Noble or wherever, Amazon. You're going and buying the old stuff, the stuff that was printed, in the 80s and the 70s and the 60s and the 50s, and you're getting editions that are really classics at this point. Why also go into collecting the books as well?
Because I turn into a book fan, and for me, when I think about Tolkien's world, it really goes outside of Peter Jackson's zone. I think when I think about characters, when I think about situations, for me, like looking at statues, I don't have to watch the movie or read the book to enjoy them. Like I can be at that time and place and think about that scene or that chapter. But when I look at the books, it's just that feeling when you go into a library and you see all those books that you love, and it's just that smell too, and they look great aesthetically. They look amazing, and knowing that I enjoy them and they're in front of me and I can open them and read them. And I not only do I collect them, I read them too. There's some first edition ones I've read, like collector pieces, like the new Folio Society one, which is an arm and a leg and a liver or two. I'm reading those too.
Hmm.
It's I want to enjoy them. I enjoy the page turning. So it's like I get to enjoy Tolkien in two different ways, in the adaptation and in the canon material. And for me, like the publishers, they're doing an exceptional job, like making them great display pieces too, because essentially, like Tolkien's world was really meant for the books. Like he published it, completed it, and shared it with the world in the medium he wanted. So that's why I also wanted to enjoy it in the medium that he gave, and learning to appreciate that, and getting all those amazing visuals from Peter Jackson's world, and even some of the Rings of Power. Like when I read those books again, those are the things that pop up when I read these, and that's what I look at. Those are the feelings that I get when I look at these books. Yesterday, I just received a new Ballantine set for, I got it for $85, but I think that's one of the most prestigious like covers I've seen.
Mhm.
It was just encouraging the internet, looking for books, looking for statues, and um, Ballantine was this artist who did this amazing cover, but Tolkien didn't like the things that she did because there's like lions in there, which there's no lions in
Oh,
Tolkien's world. Yeah, but I still really enjoy. I really enjoy the cover, and I've displayed it here. So things like that. That came in yesterday. So yeah, it's just I get two worlds into one. No, they're all in one world, but just two different mediums that I could really enjoy. So
Do you find
and the
yourself
audiobooks too are amazing. I don't like, for example, like if I can have like a CD version of
yeah.
Christopher Lee's
oh yeah.
Children of Purin, that's like Saruman, like listening to Saruman for like hours, and that's just pure gold. I'm like looking for like if they have a collector's edition of that on physical form, oh, that would definitely be displayed here. So
Do you find
if you haven't listened to that, highly recommend listening to the audiobook.
yourself enjoying collecting the books part of your collection more, or the statue part of your collection more?
Hmm.
I think I
They're just different.
I I think they're intertwined. It's like I don't want to put it this way. It's like ketchup and French fries.
Mm-hmm.
I love them both. They're great together. I'm a big foodie guy, but so yeah, it's just like, man, I love displaying my statues with my books. They
And it
look
creates a
so
beautiful
great together.
display.
Yeah,
It creates an absolutely beautiful
yeah.
display. The way that you, especially the way that you're doing it with those cabinets and everything, I think it's a really nice collection. Jim, you have older copies of the books and stuff in your
I have,
collection, right?
yeah, I have a lot of books. The Barbara Remington Ballantine books that you're talking about, Brian. Those were the copies I read in the 70s.
Oh yeah.
So those that artwork, as weird as it is, for some reason is deeply embedded with my first experience of reading those books, even though there are no emus in the Lord of the
Oh
Rings.
yeah.
But yeah, and over the years, so I started collecting the whole history of Middle Earth stuff because they were being published, and I would buy them as first edition.
Oh yeah.
And so I've got all the history of Middle Earth stuff there, but have then since supplemented it with editions that are interesting to me. So a lot of the anniversary editions. There's one edition that I bought that's on it's called India paper, I think it is. It's the same paper that you print like huge like Bibles out of, and so
Oh yeah.
so the whole trilogy is like this thick. It's mind blowing. Compared to some of the other versions that you see. So and then supplementing those with other Tolkien works. So the box sets, especially from the UK and Houghton Mifflin, are just glorious in all these various individual editions, whether they're Lord of the Rings or Beowulf or Kullervo or whatever they are. You just part of me is driven by being a completist, so I just got to get each one and make. And
That too, yeah.
Yeah.
If I know there's something missing,
Yeah.
especially on the collection like that, you're just like, oh, it could be extended more.
Do you guys find that hard to not to know? Because I mean, I have several versions of the books, and I have some really nice versions and stuff, but it's just not an area for me that I haven't gone down that rabbit hole because I'm afraid if I do, then
Oh, it's a slippery slope.
it's just like um,
Well, the ultimate
you
there
guys-
is, do I need to have a signed edition? And then in that case, you're like second mortgage city there.
yeah, exactly.
Oh,
Do you guys?
oh, so sorry, that's the piece I want too.
Yeah.
I want I am going to find and somehow fund a Tolkien signed book. Either, yeah, somehow, some way. I know the signature is expensive, but yeah.
How often
What
do
are
these
the
pop
stakes?
up, and what do they normally run? Have you guys seen that before?
In the thousands, man.
Yeah. I mean,
Like,
just
yeah.
letters are in the thousands.
Yeah. But one thing I have to be very careful of is just like if it's been authenticated,
Yeah.
like by Wicked. Yeah.
Yeah, I would
there's just
think
so
I would
much.
think any of that you would have to approach it much in the same way a sports autograph. You better make sure it's been authenticated by someone who can tell you for sure because I mean autographs in general don't come cheap. Let
Yeah.
alone when you start talking about I mean he didn't it's not like baseball cards or football cards today where a guy's autograph is kind of devalued because he signed so many cards. I mean, Tolkien wasn't out there signing stuff all the time just for giggles of it. I mean, that wasn't his thing. But back to but you guys said something a minute ago. When you guys have it, find it like an older series of books or whatever, and it's missing a spot in there. Do you guys feel that need like I have to go finish it? Is there like an OCD thing that kicks in that you're like I have to have all the volumes in this set, or can you go, hey, I found this old set, it's mostly complete, I can live with it, or does the like I said, does the OCD kick in and you go, yeah, no, that's gonna irritate the snot out of me every time I see it. I have to go get the one that I'm missing.
Yeah. Pretty much.
Yep. Mhm.
I just
Yep.
I think, and see, that's where I would be if I was collecting books, and it wouldn't necessarily have to be just Middle Earth. It could be something else. If I had an interest in having if there was a spot missing, I would have to spend the time, the effort, and the funds to have the complete set. It would just drive me nuts. Not
Yeah, for example, like the folios, like the HarperCollins slipcase edition books. There are stuff from Beowulf where I'm like, do I need that? Because it's not within the Tolkien world, like Middle Earth world. But I'm like, yeah, but it's part of the collection. I need to add that in there. So yes, it does bug me if it's not completed. It's like, the what is it? The 1/32 scale Hobbit.
Mhm.
That little metal piece that they try to do,
Yeah.
but they never completed. Imagine just having one of those in that environment. You have to have everything if you know that they're out there. So,
Yeah, I can
the
understand.
same thing too.
I can
Yeah.
understand that.
Josh, I just went online for a first edition Hobbit Tolkien signed.
Oh my gosh, The Hobbit. Oh,
$475,000.
yeah,
$475,000. Oh,
So
especially The Hobbit. Yeah,
yeah,
that's going.
that was gonna. I got yeah, and that's again that's a rabbit hole I can't go down because I would want something like that. I mean, and it would.
That's first edition. Yeah, there are others for less. There's a $75,000 trilogy, but you're talking many, many, many thousands of dollars.
Ooh.
Yeah.
I
And
don't
Josh,
feel
and you're
that-
talking
I don't
about
feel
you
that
guys,
about my
the
section.
question you guys asked earlier, right? About if it was a burning building, what would I take? So if that was on the statue piece, but then if I were to combine the statue and open it up to my books, easy decision. it would be my first edition Lord of the Rings, the 3 books. I would snag those up. Like, let's go. I'm good. Especially those are signed. I had it signed by Sam, Frodo, and Pip. So
Yeah, you
just missing one
a
Hobbit.
while back, right? At one of the at one of the at the Emerald City or something, or what?
Yeah, I had them signed at Rose City Comic Con
Okay.
and one at
Dominic to flesh out Mary. Yeah.
yeah.
Now, okay, so one of the other questions, and this was from Ithilden over on the Flame. What about, okay, to play off of that particular aspect? What about having had the opportunity to meet some of the actors who have played these characters? I mean, what has been your experience doing that? I mean, obviously, it seems like you've had a good experience, and all the Lord of the Rings actors, I will say, just from watching video and stuff, have all seemed like they're really nice to meet in person, that they're always kind, considerate, that kind of thing. Have you found that to be true? Obviously, you've done had them autograph stuff. I know you talked about that on Facebook and stuff. When you did that go well? Were they cool with that? How did that all play out?
Yeah, I have some amazing stories. Like for me, it was like one of those life highs. Before I die, I'm gonna be thinking about those moments. But other than that, like in regards to their demeanor and are they welcoming, are they humble, they're every bit of a hero, and they're as kinder actually in person. Because when you're in line with them, you just see like how tired they are. It's like imagine how tiring it is for you to visit a convention. It's super tiring, but yet you see like hundreds and hundreds of people in front of you, but yet keeping that smile, that energy, and then having something to say different to each person. Because as you're coming closer, especially at a signing booth, I'm not just seeing them go. They're taking time to listen to the stories, because people are as eager to share their experiences with their lives of like how much joy they felt. Like, oh, Elijah, this is what you did with our family. We enjoy what, like, he's not just saying yes, but they're also asking questions. This is true for all of them. So in meeting them, it was just a great experience. It would suck, honestly, if any of them were to be like rude, but especially in photo ops, I've had some funny ideas of like how to take photos, and they were always game for it. So meeting them in person, they're the heroes that we remember on books, if not even more. So
Nice. Yeah, I've had the opportunity to meet it. Not from Lord of the Rings. Well, I did meet Jed Brophy last year, so technically, yes, I met somebody from Lord of the Rings.
Jed's a great person.
I didn't realize until yesterday we share a birthday together. So that's, if he's at Comic-Con next year, I'm gonna have to tell him, I'm gonna have to be able to tease him.
Jed has the distinction of, I think he's what they call a sevener. That is, he was in all 3 of the originals, all the Hobbit movies, and now in the Rings of Power.
Yes.
Hey Jim, I have a great story to share with you, actually, since you love Sam so much.
Oh yeah.
So on my recent excursion to Rose City Comic Con to get Elijah's signature, I've always wanted to meet Elijah.
Yeah.
I thought about, like, they've done a lot for our community. They've done a lot for, especially like, I'm just gonna table it there, where the show had a lot of issues in regards to diversity. For me, somebody from my background, for me, that's important. And they had a show like All Is Welcome. For me, that was like, I really appreciated that, and all the things they did for our community. So I wanted to give them a gift. And so like I got one of my bottleneck gallery posters I wanted to give to Elijah. But in regards to Sam, I wanted to give him a book, and I was thinking what would be great. And I decided to give him my first edition US version of the Silmarillion.
Oh.
For me, that was a dear copy of mine. To let something like that go is meant a lot. So went over to Comic-Con, met Elijah. He took a pretty frequent break, so we had to wait a while. But when I gave the poster, he really appreciated it. Asked me a few questions and thanked me. At the very end, before leaving, Sean was still signing, and I was one of the last ones. So I handed him the Silmarillion book, and I told him I really appreciate everything he's done, and he was actually reluctant to receive it. Like, no, I can't take this. I'm like, no, you have to. I have a ton of books at home. If you see my collection, I can always get it back. But I wanted to say thank you. And he was like, I've never read the Silmarillion, and so now I have to. And so usually they give like 2 or 3 minutes, but we were there talking for 15, and the two people behind me, like, they looked at me and they were just enjoying the conversations as much. And I said, sorry. I'm like, no, keep going. We're enjoying this whole. He opened the Silmarillion, read a passage, and he told me that this book is gonna go into his personal collection in his home. When I was just like, oh, and then he reached over and gave his ring. He had like a little 3D printed ring that he had in his own copy in possession. He gave it to me. He goes, here, I'm gonna give this to you as a gift. And so I was trying not to freak out at the same time, while like still like cracking jokes and being happy. And he signed Sam and Bill. He signed that little ring that he gave me, and I told him, oh, this is only twice in the world that where Sam gave up the ring, one to Frodo and one to me. So
There you go.
but yeah, so that was an amazing experience I had with Sean. And then his manager came up, hey, what's taking you so long? Well, you guys been here for like 20 minutes. What's going on here? He's like, well, this gentleman here gave me a first edition book. He deserves the additional like time. And the manager was like, oh, okay, thank you. And they just walked away. But other than that, they're great people in person. If you guys are watching, you're gonna definitely have a great experience meeting them as much as I did. So
yeah, and I think that's the thing, is that I think that I've gotten from my interaction with the folks that I've met that were in the Hobbit films. The people that play in these Middle Earth films all seem to at least be cut somewhat from the same cloth, and
yeah,
find people to talk to. They want to take the time to have and hear what you have to think about, how they did, what the movie was like, how it impacted you, those kinds of things. So that's cool.
Josh, you're absolutely correct. I totally I met Evangelion Lily. She was also amazing in person too. We have photo op. She even asked me like, "Oh, that's a great shirt." I had like a Lord of the Rings shirt too. Yeah, they definitely just know that when we meet them, we have this sense of passion and, oh my gosh, you're Tariel, you're Sam. So I'm super happy that they're very receptive to all that, because it's such a global phenomenon that means a lot to each and every one of us. So
yep, I agree. Let's see.
Can we? I was going to suggest at one point, I think, Josh, we were going to talk about what are we looking for out of the collectibles that could happen from the Rings of Power series.
Oh,
not trying to get into a critique, either positive or negative, of the series, as much as thinking about there's a world of stuff, whether you're talking about weapons or costumes or artifacts or environments, even books like Sadak Burrow's book. So I'm curious, what are you most looking forward to, if anything? Is there one thing that you would jump on immediately if they ever do produce it? I have mine, but I'm curious about yours.
For me, it would be Galadriel's dagger.
Okay.
Because it has the two trees, Lordan and Telperion. Like I just love that vision. It's great that it's just amazing. It's small, but yet the design is beautiful. And then you also have like the stars in there. It's just the two trees. It's just, man, anything First Age, I'm all for. It's not book canon, but regardless, it's just a great representation of what that world is. And second is the orcs. If they were to have a 1/6, 1/4 scale of those orcs, Man, I've seen actually. I've messaged some people because I've seen some busts done already, like some fan art, 3D printed stuff done,
Oh,
and they look amazing. And those orcs are great. They are menacing. Like, I was watching it in my sister's house, and I have like two nieces. I've watched some. I watched some of the Lord of the Rings with them, and they were like, okay. But when they saw like the orcs from the Rings of Power, they're like, "Oh, it's scary!" That's the first time that, they got really scared because those shots are up close, and
mhm.
I really like those orcs. So any bust or 1/6 scale, 1/4, I jump on those. So
Cool.
Yeah, yeah. Those would be good choices. I would say for me, um, because I'm not a big prop person. I like the dagger idea. That's cool. Um, I definitely gotta have Galadriel in her armor.
Mhm.
Um,
Mhm.
Sorry, the figure.
I actually like the armor more that she wears at the beginning in the first episode versus how the armor looks
Oh,
and then towards
Oh
the.
yeah, yeah, that was good. Yeah.
I think there's some slight variances in the armor, and I kind of like what's at the. But either one would be good. I would take either one. Obviously, orcs would be cool. I would definitely want a couple of orc statues. Being more of a 1/6 collector, I would definitely want more 1/6 versus quarter scale, just because it goes into this space and all that kind of stuff, like we talked about earlier. Um, I absolutely love the Gondorian culture. Okay, from Lord of the Rings.
Oh yeah.
Let's go from there. So that is my favorite place. I love the way the city looks. I love the colorings and how it's described. Not just how you see the movies, but how it's described in the books. So
Yeah.
I would absolutely love to have an environment of Numenor. However,
Oh
because
yeah.
obviously it's going to be it could be maybe a little bit difficult to do versus say how like Minas Tirith was done by Weta. But
if you think of the Rivendell piece,
yeah,
which was a full environment
Oh,
at a lower scale,
yeah.
but if you could imagine that water piece and with the Arendelle statue and all the various pieces around it, that would be a pretty.
I would absolutely want a Numenor. Um, Linden would be cool. I mean, we didn't. I mean, we didn't get
oh yeah.
like outside weird shots. I don't think like where you got the full scale of what Linden looks like. But I think that would be pretty. I would definitely like that. Love the Moria sequence in Lord of the Rings. And seeing what Khazad-dûm looks like after it's been destroyed. So
That yeah,
so give
Maury's always tough to
give
do it.
me a
Total
Casa
environment.
Doom, from Rings of Power, how it looks beautiful. You get to see the dwarves and their beauty and their power and their strength and all of that at this point before they dig a little too far into the ground. And then I would like.
I have a pitch for Weta,
Uh
a
huh.
Masters collection. You know how they did Thranduil on Throne?
Uh huh.
I would like a Gil-galad Master collection with the Tree of Linden. Kind of like he's like it's like a imagine him with this huge tree and just having that forward look with like motions of wind, just like that diorama piece 1/6 him, just that environment with all that gold, that orange.
Mm-hmm.
That would be a centerpiece for any collection. That would be a great masterpiece collection because I think like one is I think that would touch base with the movies too because he looks like Gil-galad from
Yeah.
the great like transition like they could be cousins or brothers. You can even tell me if they're related. They look so alike.
Yeah. That
Um,
was one of the. That's one of the. And I think where casting choices where I noticed early on for me, and that's why I think that would make a good sketch too, is that you would have a hard time telling like who the actor was in a good way, not because they missed
yeah.
the likeness, but because the likeness is so well done. Another guy that I would like to, and ironically, we finally after 20 some years got a statue of him with Elendil from the
Oh,
prologue sequence. I would like an Elendil from this. Now, whether or not it's
Oh,
now or maybe it's a little bit later if we see the armor change over time before the series is over with. But I love the guy playing him. I didn't know who he was going into the show, but I love the way the guy plays him. I like the way he's approaching the character and what we know of the character to over time become, where he in battle, obviously it's fighting, but sacrifices himself essentially, fighting Sauron and what may be a losing cause because of how powerful Sauron is. I think I would definitely like Elendil. That would be cool. I would Durin,
Oh yeah.
the son, not so much the father. And that's the different. What's he Durin the fourth, I think. And so I would like him. He would be kind of neat to have. So yeah, those are some ironic. Like I said, for me, a couple of things would be 2 or 3 in the environments, just because
Yeah.
I think those are the kind of collectibles that I think would sell to most people, whether or not maybe you like the show or not. And like I said, not to go
Yeah.
down that road, but I think because if they did a Numenor in the same way, let's say Weta does it, the same way they did, like Jim brought up with Rivendell, and that scale where it's a little bit smaller in scale, but you get the full feel of the place. I think you could slip that into a collection, and maybe if you didn't necessarily love the show, you have a representation of Numenor in your collection. And
Oh yeah.
so for me, that actually, I would put an environment of Numenor probably near the top of my list of things that I want from the show. Just kind of going through the first season, we haven't gotten a lot of the Balrog yet, so but the
You
Balrog
know what would be an instant order for me, Josh?
will be on
I
there.
was waiting for your Balrog.
Oh yeah. Two Trees and the Valinor. If they did a dire, that's an instant order for me.
Yeah, that would be a
Two
good
Trees and Valinor. Like
Yeah, I
if
would
they
be
did an
curious if
environment of that,
they could do that.
I'm
But,
good.
I would be curious with that one, because while I think it would be beautiful, and I would definitely be tempted to get that because of its importance to the overall story. I would be curious if they could do that one, because I think that's one of those things that they probably had to get permission to do. Because
Yeah. In regards to licensing, because
yeah, I would
I
be
think
curious if that would fall because it's in the show. Is it in the show? So now it's okay to do as a statue. I'd be
Well,
curious with some.
there are certainly book references to Valinor, but you're on that gray area.
yeah.
I actually did a list of things. So there are a bunch of weapons,
Mm-hmm.
including some that you just saw leaning up against walls.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah.
Tuor's axe and shield, or the dragon helm of Turin.
Turin, yeah. That's definitely a yeah.
My big one that I want to see, and I got a place to mount it, is Aeglos, Gil-galad's spear. I do want to see that.
They did show that at the last episode,
Yeah,
so that was really cool.
Seen it, and you've seen it in some of the still shots, and it's an amazing looking piece. We're thinking about trying to build a cosplay around the dwarves, so anything like Durin's hammer or his neck piece or those kinds of things would be cool. That key sword that Theo and Waldred carry around, that glows whenever you put, or grows whenever you put blood on it. That, I think that'll be a popular piece if they ever make it. Galadriel or Finrod's knife, like you said, Brian, I think is a big one. Just artifact things like even a piece of mithril or Fëanor's hammer or a lantern. Those acolytes and their scepter thing that ultimately the stranger grabs at the end. Sadok's book, Numenorian armor, dwarven mail, those green man chest plates for the elves. That Gil-galad crown thing could be one. So yeah, and then all of the environments that you guys have been talking about.
What about their version of Narsil that we saw in that one?
Yeah, and so that one, I don't know that it would look that dramatically different from the Narsil we've already seen.
Right.
It's the same sword that Elendil manages to smuggle out of Numenor at the collapse. But yeah. So yeah, all that stuff.
Yep. For me, two other things that come into mind, instant order for me is Fëanor's hammer. When Fëanor's hammer came into, like, I want that. Is that who forged the Silmarils? Okay.
Yeah, it's a first stage dude.
Give me that. And I think a great piece would have, like Bilbo on his writing desk, the $1,300 piece. I think if they did something similar to like Celebrimbor, like forging the rings, holding like him in his like not in like maybe in like a smith's attire with the furnace or the
Mhm.
whatever it is on the background, to see like him actually like making the rings with like maybe holding one ring like this and having the rings shown there like it completed. That would be an amazing piece. Like, yeah, it's just
And just those three
because
elven rings to begin, just you know,
And the neat thing
represent-
about those Elven Rings is that obviously they look a little bit different than what's in Peter Jackson's films.
Yeah.
So if you have the ones from Peter Jackson's films, you can have these and have them, and people aren't going, oh, well, why'd you buy the same ring twice? But at the same time, you can have them, not have the others, and it's still going to fit because, um, I think the way obviously the way the show has been designed up to this point, it's in the same sandbox ish, so you can have collectibles, especially if Weta, let's say Weta does the statues. They're obviously going to probably be on those classic bases with probably a second age map, and they're going to blend in and they're going to look wonderful.
yeah.
Mixed in with the other stuff when you're talking about just like adaptation versus obviously book stuff, but yeah, those are all really really good choices, and that's the in some ways I don't know, maybe you guys will find this a little bit too. Sometimes I find myself watching the show and thinking to myself, not so much the movies anymore, because obviously we've had a lot of collectibles, but watching the show a little bit sometimes thinking, looking for stuff going, yeah, I wouldn't mind that getting turned into a statue.
Yeah.
I wouldn't mind. And I'm thinking, I'm like, I need to pay, it's one of those trying to focus and pay attention because I don't want to miss anything. Not that I'm not going to watch it again. I plan on binge watching it during my Christmas break, but what thing, like I said, just kind of looking at it going, I wouldn't mind that. I mean, that was kind of one of the first things I thought about when I saw even just the promotional images of Galadriel in her armor, thinking, ooh, that would look
So,
that
so
would
here,
look
here you go, Josh. And it's apocryphal, and I'm not saying that I'm endorsing this storyline, but here you have a piece, which is this elven unnamed warrior
uh,
fighting a Balrog in front of a tree with a lightning bolt, creating mithril. There you go.
I'm down with that. I'm down with that. I mean, I could give you my reasons for not having a problem with that, but that's a whole different video. But I looked at that sequence going, yes, please. Actually, my thought, somebody's going to make that, and just go ahead and send me an email with the pre-order link now. I'll put my name on that list. Yes, I would totally be down for that, because it just was, again, it looked neat. It looked cool, and it would look cool in my collection. It felt, when I saw it, I felt like Middle Earth. It looked like Middle Earth, and so because it felt like it belonged, if like what Brian was talking about earlier, in that if whoever does it, if it's done with care, if it's done with quality, and it looks really good, yeah, and the price is something I can figure out how to work into a teacher budget. Sure, I would be okay with adding that to my collection. And I look at it like this: it's one of those, if I buy it and someone else has a problem with it, that's a you problem, not a me problem.
Yeah, and Jim, for me, guys, this goes, even back to the book collecting, with Valentine, um, you know, I think the biggest issue is like if you don't touch the books, she did. I mean, those covers are not canon. I mean, there's no lion in there. I mean, I think there was even an ostrich. I mean, but nonetheless, like those posters are going for like $1,600.
Yeah.
Like those books are like, you don't see them a lot in the market because people are holding on to them. So for us, it in a way, it's like, what does Tolkien mean to you? Like, even if it may not be what we thought it was from Peter Jackson or from the books, if it gets us to that world, hey, even knowing about Tolkien and reading on him, I think he probably would not even appreciate how his world went in regards to Hollywood. How things have been monetized in regards to the statues, and he doesn't even like the modern machine, what more of like cashing in on all this. But we live in a different world where the new generation just needs a different path to finding Tolkien. And for me, if it wasn't for Peter Jackson, I probably would have never got to enjoy that world. So for me, it's like that next generation, the current gen, because Peter Jackson already did it already for that generation. It's set. It's like, how does that legacy continue? The movies will age beautifully over time, even in 50, even in like 100 years. But like, new generation, especially now, like it's very different. There's different mediums, and the new generation are finding solace too in his world that we like. So
Well, I know.
I think in any collection, it's like, what does it mean to you? Yeah, it's great. Like I enjoy it. I love it. Yeah.
I'm excited
Whatever
from that,
brings you happiness.
not just from a collecting perspective because of the show, because of what it offers, but just obviously again without dangling into the other stuff. But I know
Yeah.
I know a couple of the English teachers at school have said some of my students, and I teach in an urban school district. Okay, so that's you like Brian was talking about earlier with stuff. I have teaching in an urban school district, so a lot of the kids don't look like me, but apparently they're have several that are very excited about Rings of Power, and they've been talking about it. I told her, I'm like, well, you need to tell them to stop by and see me so we can have some conversations, because I'm always going to talk with people that are interested in this stuff, especially if I'm at work. But those kids are eventually going to roll into getting of an age to where they want to collect and buy stuff. And
oh yeah,
I mean, thinking about these statues and these kids when they get a little bit older and can get into some money to hopefully afford to buy some collectibles, they're going to have these potentially to do. So, it's
they're going to be looking for your Balrog.
they're going to be coming for my Balrog eventually. But I think the cool stuff that can come from this show and just the things that we've talked about, it just keeps the ball rolling. It makes it to where us, I guess, old heads in the collecting can keep buying stuff while the newer generations continue to roll in behind us and buy stuff. So I'm thankful because of that, because of the cool ideas we talked about. It allows us to keep buying stuff. It makes Weta want to keep doing stuff. Prime One, Sideshow, Gentle Giant, whoever's making the stuff. It tells them there's a market there for us. And so we get to keep buying cool stuff because the kids behind us are buying the cool stuff. So it works out.
Brian, I'm interested.
Josh, Jim, the things that you guys listed, all the statue ideas, that's like a maxed out $10,000 right there, and that's just in season 1.
Exactly.
But I'm interested. Brian, I'm interested in your point of view on this, because obviously we're talking top end and massive environments and 6 scale figures and so on, but clearly there are going to be just the classic collectible figures mounted on it, and I'm actually curious, Brian, because you mentioned this before. This series was intentionally more oriented toward a diverse cast that would allow a greater span of different cultures and ethnicities to look at this and say, I can find myself here in ways that have not been as true in other Tolkien properties.
Yeah.
And whether or not that upsets you, and I think it's pretty glorious personally.
Oh yeah.
But so being able to purchase a $12 or $15 Arondir with his weapon equipment, or pair him up with others, whether they're Harfoots or Durin and Diza and their dwarven. Okay, so there are going to be a lot more opportunities at accessible price points for anybody to bring in this universe into their home. So I'd be curious about your thoughts there too.
Oh no, I definitely agree. For me, for me personally, my view, being Asian and also being Filipino and color, and I didn't mind if Amazon did or didn't do without it. For me, it's like since they did, I'm happy that they did, and they did these characters well. So I also liked it that while they, for example, like Arondir does look like me, or looks like someone that's not your traditional elf. What I like, the great thing about what Amazon did, maybe it's not getting enough light, is his demeanor is similar to that of the first age elves, very strong. It's not elegant, it's not like there's just music going on in the background. They're not like that of magic. He is like a well-rounded, very tough, very soft, but yet very firm elf, and very loyal too. Um, so that really reminds me of like the first age elf, but then also touching up on, it just opens up a different audiences. It just opens up the world of Tolkien. And even from my personal friends, followers, there are, I'm not kidding, like at least 50 plus people who have reached out and say, I'm reading the books now. Oh my gosh, like I'm finding out The Hobbit wasn't what it was. Like I didn't know this existed. And I'm like, okay, sticker shock. Like, why did they do this? Like, I'm having to find out there's a lot of changes. Well, that's the beauty of it. Like you have this new segment, and they also enjoyed the Lord of the Rings, but are also finding out the source material too, because that interest is there. So I think that's the true silver lining of it all. I understand like the criticisms behind it too, but then I think the intention was good. You know, it was because these characters like Diza and Arondir, they behaved like a Tolkien character. Like for it's and yeah, for me, I think when you look at these statues, you're also going to think about their characters too, and how well you connect to them on film. And I thought that they were actually one of the two like really great characters in the show, regardless of their skin color. They just acted exceptionally well, and I really did like how their storyline went. So yeah,
with
great.
Arondir, if I could pronounce his name even close to is correct. That was a character, and then initially with the promotional images, I was like, in the clips that we saw, I was like, are they just trying to make this guy another Legolas? Like, hey, we need a Legolas like elf, but he grew on me in the show, and I say this when in the season 1 recap that I need to finish editing and have somebody post for me. I really grew to like the character, so he would be another one that I would be very, depending on what moment, the pose, obviously cost, all those things that we talk about all the time with collectibles. He's another.
Yeah.
I would definitely be down for possibly adding, just because I thought the character turned out to be pretty cool. So that's another character on the list of the $10,000 or so that we're already
Me too.
we're already we're already working up. So I want to hit on this because I like I said, I don't want to keep you all day, and obviously it's we got 15 minutes left on the timer that I set for us. So what about when it comes to taking pictures? What is, you obviously do a lot of yours inside in your house, it looks like. Obviously, having seen mine, I do a lot of mine out on my front porch. What's your process taking photos? What's your thought process when you're doing them and stuff like that? Because for me, it's like I have to, obviously I'm weather dependent, taking them outside. So I need it to be at least a decent amount of sunlight. Have to wait. There's certain times of the day where it's better for me to take than others. And then you get into, which obviously you run into this as well, the having to move these guys around to take a photo of them.
Yeah.
And the stress and the sweat and the nervousness of moving these things around. What do you think about when you go to take your photos, and do you take a bunch of it from every angle and then pick the one that you like the most? What's your process like?
So for me, it all comes down to like a vision. Like when I look at a statue, like how like things come into my mind, like if I compare this guy up somewhere, or if the light hits it differently, paired up with books. So for me, there's that really, I really lean in on that creative aspect. Like there was a few times I actually had to sleep in this room because of like I was super sick. Then and lying down here, it's an amazing room to sleep on, having to lie down on the floor, but then seeing a statue in a different angle, wow, you get different feeling, you get a different look. And so that's how I really like started on this journey, because there's the classic pose of like, this is a statue, full piece. But if you just move it a little bit, but you change the angle and you change the lighting, you get a different feel and vibe. And for me, that is what I think about most in my photos is how can I bring these characters to life? Or how can I think of the composition? So when you look at some of my photos, they're like arranged in like different ways, or there's a certain theme. And I would think about these differently when if I'm going out for a run, or if I'm cooking or doing something if I'm at work and I have an idea, I would just jot those down and try to bring that into camera. And so for me, I don't try to think about the elements of like I have my lights in here, but if the piece is right and the angle is there, that's where I try to make as much magic as I can. So for me, it's like, yeah, I try to take different angles. Did it work? Did it not work? So there's a lot of things that go into this process, but it all comes from like a vision or an idea or a cool idea I probably want to have. So like lighting up the helms in a certain way, but then there's also the technical part of it of do I want the first helmet to be in focus, but the rest to have that blurred look? Then that's more on the camera techniques and everything. How does the lighting, how do I want to light it from the side to show that ominous look? Or do I just want it like, hey, this is a catalog photo where everything's just definitely lit? So for me, it's like coming up with there's I still have a ton of ideas, but I just need to find time juggling work, family time with reading time, and there's also a ton of hobbies I like to do. Yeah, just finding time for photography, but photography
How long
is
does
an
it
area where I'm truly passionate about.
how long does it take you to shoot your photos of a statue generally?
Um, I'd say an average of about an hour and a half just for the actual shoot itself. But for like the end-to-end process, it could be like 3 hours. Like set up, moving the statue over, getting in the right spot, then you have your post,
Mhm.
you have your post processing, which is just basically like color grading.
Right,
I don't do any Photoshop where I add stuff and add things
right.
in, more like just working with the light that I have.
Yeah. And that's the thing that I've found with taking photos is that, you know, take not only just taking them, I mean, obviously, like I said, with taking them outside, I have to go with what I'm given when I pick the day that I might take photos. But it's I mean, and a lot of people, I will say, like especially on the flame, they do all seem to be, thankfully, and I love them for this understanding and that it is a process. I mean, it's not an easy process
Yeah.
because you gotta drag the statue out. You've got to, for you, you got to set up your lights and you got to do certain things on the inside. For me, it's based, like I said, based on the time of day, and that kind of stuff. Do I need to do the video part of my review first to maybe let it get a little bit later in the day because, or flip things around, stuff like that. So yeah, it's a whole process. Do you, but how many photos do you generally take? Okay, I'm curious about this too. How many photos generally do you take of a statue before you go into the editing process?
Not too much. Like from like 10 to 20 photos.
Really? Okay.
And I feel like once I got that shot, I'm like, oh, okay, it's
See,
good
and that's
because
the difference right there, people, between someone who is really good at what they do and me. I'll take I'll take two or three on my photo when I'm taking 200 or 300 of a statue.
well, you have to be my it's
I am
space
I
because
am
you
throwing
have fun.
spaghetti on the wall and seeing what sticks. That is the difference between and that's why, like, with the flame of doing like the photographer of the year award, I'm always grateful when somebody picks me at least for a vote, just because I'm like, I know what the competition is, but I also know like the skill level that it takes to not just take to take any photo, but like yours or Bill's or whoever. I mean, there's a lot of there's certain skill and I know, like I said, I know for me, I'm throwing spaghetti at the wall. I'm hoping something sticks. I'm hoping I'll get something good because I really, especially on, like say, like that Balrog versus Gandalf, I do not want to drag that thing back outside and have to take pictures of that thing again.
Oh yeah.
that is, I better get what I want the first time, because no, I don't want.
Yeah. That's especially where you're working with
Have
like
you
those
had
kind of
that happen?
scales.
Or have you taken pictures of a statue, didn't like what you got at all, and thought, God, now I've got to drag this guy back out and take pictures again? Or are you usually pretty good? You nail it the first time and you're good.
Oh no. That's one thing. I have like several ideas for Treebeard, but I'm like, oh, but I have to take him away from his corner to set it up. And there is the risk of something breaking,
Yeah.
and sometimes it does happen and whatnot. But yeah, it's just that whole but for me that once that vision is there, then it's just okay, I'll do anything what I can to see. Once I see the shot in my mind, I'm like, I need to set it up. So sometimes I'll be up late, because once the day is done, that's the really only time I can really shoot is like at the wee hours. So, and I'm an owl, so I'm up late. Yeah.
Okay.
But a lot of people want to take photography, and for my advice is that you don't need a professional camera. I think the biggest thing is lighting. I think that is the great thing. If you look online, there's a lot of amazing photos, and they're coming straight from your iPhone or from your Android. I think the big thing for me is just setting up your lighting and setting up like your composition, how you want it to be shown, if it's very simple or very complex. And then there's just a lot of these tools now, like I think filters,
Mm-hmm.
post, yeah. So they make your photos look amazing. So it's that's another great way to enjoy your collection. So you have it, and then you also can have it on your phone. You have a different angle. You can't really like move your statue in a certain way, but if you can take it and keep that as your background, yeah, that'd be great. So
Jim, you got any questions on the photography part?
I'm just fascinated by the skills that you all bring to bear. I just pick up my phone, point and shoot, and hope that it works out. So,
Well, for me, I was lucky several years ago now. A friend of mine named Terry Smith. He works for Sideshow, and Terry's from St. Louis, so we're both Missourians, and we got to know each other through collecting boards and stuff. And Terry is a fantastic photographer. He does the striking a pose for Sideshow. He does all their posing stuff.
oh,
He's
nice.
their pose master. He one time at Comic Con helped me out, and I was like just trying to figure out how to get better. And he offered me a couple of simple tips with the camera that I still use today, and it was great. He's like, do this and this. He goes, if you do these two, they're minor things. He goes, you'll be just fine. And to me, I've done those, and I have not. It's not that I don't want to get better or change things, but I found something that works, and I just do it. And then so, yeah, I mean, I've got a nice camera, but the camera is, I mean, I've had it for every Comic Con I've been to since the first one. So it's 14 years old, 15 years old, something like that now, something like, yeah, it's, but yeah, I think that's when you're taking photos. I think you can go to a certain level and get to where, um, Brian is at or better. Some of these really crazy professional photographers that are going to these, crazy locations. But if you just want to take photos, I think you just need to, like Brian said, just kind of maybe investigate some things, have a nice camera. You don't need something crazy.
No, no.
Find what you do well and take your pictures. It's okay. You're sharing. For me, on this particular topic with collectibles, you know, I'm just wanting to share what I love about Middle Earth and
Yeah.
about the collectibles and about the companies and the people that I meet when I'm at Comic Con or doing things like this. That's one of the reasons why I wanted to do this, and I'm thankful Jim, joins me and have folks like yourself on, Brian, where just it's a visual medium to talk about this stuff, whether or not it's a photo or a review. So find something, get a decent, get a nice little camera, use your iPhone, have fun with it, because you're already working with something that's beautiful. I mean,
so
with
Yeah.
Brian,
you, it's
if
not like you're trying to find something that just looks messed up and you're trying to find a way to make it look beautiful, or take an old sign that's all rusted. How can I make this look pretty in a picture? You're already working with a beautiful, well done statue. Weta or Prime One or somebody's done the hard work. So
Brian, if somebody was trying to find some of your pictures, one of our listeners, where would they go?
You can go to Instagram at Tolkien_photography.
Instagram at
Yeah, or you
Tolkien.
can find me at the Flame of a Dune. I do have like an art piece in there. I do share my photos under the art section. So I just need to be a bit more diligent about updating that. Yeah, it's been crazy. But those are the two places that you can find me.
Cool. We probably should make a note of that.
Yes, yeah. Brian, like I said, it's one of the reasons why I wanted to have Brian on was his photography is really, really nice. And it's one of those I look at. And the thing too is I'll put it like this too. Brian and I, with the types of photos we take, they're different. And that's what's beautiful about how sharing the collecting is like Brian's very professional and they're in the angles and the lighting and everything. And and it gives you that look of like a photo that could be on a product page. I mean, that's the type of photo they are. And I mean that completely 100% as a compliment.
Thanks, man.
It is a product page photo. For me, I'm more, it's more outside. I want to show the natural look of everything. And it's kind of, but when you put those types of photos together on a message board or a collector's group or whatever, you get an idea of what you're buying. You get an idea of what how great these pieces are. So that, again, that's another reason why I want to have people and like Brian on here, because we, share his skill, let people see all the types of ways they can find out about these things that we're spending, what some might describe as an insane amount of money on. So
yeah, and you guys know, right? Like even with the technology within cameras right now, like camera technology is at its prime, but it still can't mirror like the magic that you see the statue in person, regardless of what you see. It's like no matter how many marketing materials you see in photos, and then when you see the statue in person, you're like, wow, it's just amazing experience. That's what I'm also trying to capture, is like that. I'm trying to capture like that. Wow, that if you were to see it, that close level of experience. Like for example, like some of the Gondor pieces, like I thought they were okay when I saw it on Weta, but then when I saw it in person and I had an intention of just selling it to a friend, when I opened it, I'm like, no, I'm gonna keep this. This is mine. Like I did not think that this was amazing in person. Like, yeah, some of the things that I thought were okay, and then when I see them in statue, I'm like, wow, what if I can bridge that gap a bit more? So for me, that's always the goal there, while trying to add like a bit of magic and style on my side. So
awesome. Well, we've hit about the 90-minute mark, so we won't keep you any longer. But just wanted to say thank you for joining us.
well, thank you for having me.
You gave
I
away
would encourage it.
stuff, so we're good there. People can find you and see how beautiful your photos are.
Go to Brian's site. Yeah, there are some great photos there. I just went on it. I noticed that we share the same edition of the Silmarillion. That was the special little
nice
iron crowned jeweled version of it. Yeah.
Oh, Geekify. Oh yeah, that is one of my favorite ones. When I saw those, I had to have those. And when I saw the price tag, I'm just like, oh wow. You're just like, yeah, books are really expensive. You're like, collectibles, books, collectibles, books.
But it's both. It's both.
Yeah. Yeah.
Go there. Go to Brian's site.
Please check out his stuff on Instagram. Like I said, his photos are really, really good. And like I said, they are the kind of photos that you would see on a product page to show off in a very professional way how beautiful these things are we collect. The next time we get together, we've got some guests lined up. I'll go ahead and leak some names for people that are watching this to stick away they're in. A young lady that and I can say this because she is younger than me by a few years at Comic-Con. Lauren does cosplay. Got a chance to meet her at Comic-Con in July. She is really cool. She collects. She has a bunch of swords. She did a really great looking armor for Galadriel from Rings of Power, and was lucky enough to meet the cast and get it signed by Galadriel herself. We're gonna connect with Daniel again and have him back on. We're gonna talk about Rings of Power, what he can talk about in his role with it, talk about what's coming up with anything from Weta, And then I also bugged the wonderful gentleman that did this painting behind me, Jerry Vanderbilt, who's become
Jerry, a
is
great guy.
a very dear friend. I love the guy to death. And I asked him at Comic Con, I said, "Hey, Jerry, would you mind coming on?" He was like, "Yeah." So we've got some guests lined up. Jim and I will figure out what works schedule wise for us, check with these wonderful people, and see if anything works with them. And that'll be what's coming up for anybody watching this. I do have a couple reviews coming out soon, hopefully. One is done. I got to put it together, and the other, like we talked about, I got to drag myself outside and get him out there so I can take some photos because I've been sitting on this one for a bit. So, but that's it for this episode of the Collecting the Precious podcast. We thank you guys for joining us. Continuing to support the channel. We're over 1,000 subscribers actually now on the channel, so that's good. Just progress. Thank you for supporting us and all that good thing. Thank you for joining us at theonering.net, where we continue to, all these years later, continue to break news and that kind of stuff in the realm of Middle Earth. So until next time, guys, later.